You know that feeling when a brilliant idea sparks in your mind? Like it just pops in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What if that spark wasn't just random, but actually a direct line to shaping your reality?
Mm-hmm. That's a powerful thought.
So tonight, we're diving deep into something Neville Goddard taught, the concept for, well, making your desires real. He called it communing with yourself.
Right, and this isn't just, theory. It's meant to be a practical technique.
Exactly. And we're going right to the source, focusing on a specific lecture he gave, February 4th, 1966.
And the core idea in that lecture is fascinating. He basically says your imagination isn't just for daydreams.
Okay. What is it then?
He says it's the divine body within you. It's God, essentially, that deep sense of I am.
Wow, okay. So when people talk about having faith in God, in Neville's view,
They're actually talking about having faith in their own imaginal acts, faith in what they're doing inside their own mind.
got it. So our mission here in this deep dive is to really unpack that, understand this communing with yourself thing.
Yeah, see how it works, how you might actually use it, like day to day.
Right. We'll look at Neville's insights, how he read certain texts, and some really amazing stories he told to illustrate it.
And he starts in a kind of surprising place, doesn't he? With a line from the 4th Psalm?
Yeah, be angry but sin not. Seems a bit intense.
Well, he often used the Revised Standard Version of the Bible, and its take is interesting. It suggests this anger or maybe rage comes up when you're blocked.
Blocked out.
Like someone in authority, maybe your boss, your parent, whoever, says no to something you really want. You feel that frustration,
Right.
that resistance.
Okay, yeah, I can picture that. But then the sin not part.
So Neville's point is that sin here doesn't mean doing something morally wrong. It means to miss the mark.
Miss the mark, like miss your target.
Exactly. So you feel that anger, that external pushback, but the key is not to let it derail you. Don't give up on your goal just because someone said no.
Don't let their reality become your final reality.
Precisely. And that leads right into the next part of the verse he focuses on. Commune with your own heart on your bed and be silent.
Okay, commune with your own heart, internal conversation.
Yes. And he highlights that word silent from the Revised Standard Version. He felt it was more potent than the King James's be still.
Why silent specifically?
Because it emphasizes that this is internal. It's about that very personal dialogue you have inside. Not stillness necessarily, but inner quiet focus.
So it's not about shouting your desires from the rooftops or arguing with the person who said no.
Nope. It's private, internal, done in that quiet space, like on your bed, suggests a place of rest, of turning inward.
Okay, and then comes the next instruction. Offer the sacrifices of righteousness. What's that about? Sounds kind of biblical, obviously.
It does, and Neville preferred the King James phrasing here, but he clarifies these sacrifices, they aren't, literal offerings on an altar.
Right, not giving up something physical.
No. If you give something to God, which he equates with your own consciousness, remember, you're giving an imaginal act. It's internal.
So what's a sacrifice of righteousness then, if it's not a physical thing?
Well, he looked up righteousness apparently in the Encyclopedia Britannica, no less.
Okay.
And it defined it as right thinking.
Right thinking. So the sacrifice is thinking the right thoughts.
Exactly. When you face that opposition, that no, instead of dwelling on that as the final word, you offer up the right thought, the feeling of your desire already fulfilled.
Ah, okay. So you're sacrificing the focus on the problem and instead offering the focus on the solution internally.
You got it. You're offering it to your own consciousness, your imagination, which is God in this context. You're affirming the desired reality within.
Makes sense. And the last part of that passage,
And trust in the Lord.
which for Neville isn't an external being, but
But I am. Your own awareness of being. He points to Yod-He-Vav-He, God's name revealed to Moses, meaning that fundamental sense of existence.
that constant feeling that just is, I am.
Yes. It's always there, unchanging. He notes the Bible says it's God's name forever, throughout all generations. It's timeless.
So trust in the Lord becomes.
Trust in your own I am. Trust in your own being. And by extension, trust in the reality of your imaginal acts. Believe that what you do inwardly will manifest outwardly.
Okay, that pulls it all together. But it still sounds a bit abstract. Does he give examples?
Oh, absolutely. He tells this wonderful story about a 9-year-old girl, Lynn.
A 9-year-old. Okay, this should be good.
So the family's going to San Diego. Lynn casually mentions her little friend is coming along.
Yeah.
Mom immediately says, no, absolutely not. Mother's authority. End of story, it seems.
Uh-oh. What did Lynn do?
Well, she was disappointed, naturally. Went to her dad.
Complaining, I bet.
Probably. But her dad had this really wise response. He apparently said something like, "Lynn, darling, have you forgotten God? He's the real authority. Take it to God."
So he's basically telling her to use her imagination,
Right. Yeah.
using their language for it.
Exactly. He's guiding her back to this principle.
And did she? The 9-year-old.
She did. She just closed her eyes for a moment, did her inner work, that silent communion.
And then...
Then she opened her eyes, said thank you, and told her dad, it's done, she's coming. Just like that. Total confidence.
Thank you, like it already happened.
Precisely, accepting it as finished in imagination. And guess what?
The friend came.
A little while later, the mother just brings it up, completely changes her mind, says, maybe it'd be nice if your friend came along. Comes up with reasons why it's a good idea, as if it was her idea all along.
Wow. So Lynn didn't argue, didn't plead?
Nope. She went inside, did the work, said thank you, affirmed it was done, and trusted. The mother just became the channel for it to happen.
That's incredible. Did it happen again?
On the same trip, Lynn wanted her and her friend to have their own motel room. Mom said no again.
Okay, round 2.
Lynn apparently forgot the lesson for a second, went back to Dad to complain. Dad just gently reminded her, God, Lynn. So she went inward again, closed her eyes, did the communion, said her thank you.
And the mother?
Changed her mind again. Started thinking, it might be better if the girls had their own room, give the parents some peace. Again, presenting it as her own reasoned decision.
This is wild. It's like the mother had no idea her mind was being changed, sort of.
From the outside, yeah.
Yeah.
It felt natural to her. And it happened a third time with dinner plans.
Seriously. What was it this time?
Lynn wanted to stay in the room and play. Mom wanted them all to go out. Mom said no to staying in. Lynn did her inner work, the thank you.
Let me guess.
Yep. Mom suddenly thinks, maybe your father and I could use a nice dinner out. Just the two of us. You girls can have fun here.
That little girl really got the hang of it.
She did. The story really highlights a few things. 1, even a child gets this. 2, that simple thank you is powerful. It's acceptance.
And 3, you don't need to broadcast it. Just trust the inner work.
Exactly. Lynn didn't brag or anything. She just knew.
Neville shares other examples too, right? Not just Lynn.
Yeah, he talks about his own mother wanting to come to America. His father wasn't easily persuaded about things, apparently.
So she couldn't just ask.
She took a different approach. She just started living it internally, mentally preparing, imagining the journey, feeling like she was already going, just assumed it.
She didn't try to convince him outwardly.
Not directly, it seems. She just held that inner conviction. And then, Neville says, his father just came to the decision himself.
He decided she should go.
More than that, he apparently insisted on it. Even when she raised concerns about the cost, he was adamant, you're going.
So her inner knowing kind of externalized through him.
That's the idea. Neville says that believing, if you persist in it, eventually just becomes knowing. It feels like a fact before it even happens physically.
These stories really drive home his main point then, that imagination is this creative power. It's God, as he puts it.
Right. It can change things that seem totally fixed. He mentions a friend asking him to review a chapter of his book, Out of This World, which was all about the fourth dimension imaginations realm.
And he connects this to science sometimes, doesn't he?
He does. He talks about reading a New York Times editorial around that time, discussing scientists talking about the universe expanding and contracting.
Okay. How does that relate?
Their theories suggested that the future isn't something that will happen, but something that, in a way, already exists, just not in our current 3D view yet.
Like all possibilities exist now.
Kind of. And while the scientists are figuring out the theory...
Neville's saying, hey, I know how to access that future now, practically.
Exactly. Through directed imagination. You step into that desired future state in your mind, feel it real, and then it unfolds in your 3D world.
But you need faith for that. That seems crucial.
Absolutely essential. He often quoted, without faith, it's impossible to please him.
And pleasing God, in his terms, means...
seeing your desires manifest. Experiencing the results of your imaginal acts. That's what pleases the creative power within.
And how do we get that faith, especially when, reality seems to scream the opposite?
By deliberately choosing not to accept those opposing facts as final, you turn away from the unwanted circumstances and go back to the source imagination.
Dwelling in the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
Yes. Persistently. That's how you build that faith, that conviction.
He also mentioned something from the book of James, didn't he? About anger.
Right. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. His take was, okay, Feel the anger, the frustration when you hit that wall like we talked about earlier. That's natural.
But don't stay there.
Exactly. Acknowledge it, but don't dwell on it. Don't let it fester and define your state. Quickly return your focus to your goal, to that right thinking.
Keep offering that sacrifice of righteousness.
You got it. And the beauty is you can do this anywhere.
Right. Not just on your bed.
No, he even uses the example of being in a bar. You don't need a special holy place. God, your imagination is always present right where you are.
Okay. That makes it very accessible.
He also shared some more mystical sounding experiences friends had had relating to this awakened imagination.
Like what?
One friend saw this vision of a steel gray face, which for him symbolized infinite might, El Shaddai, limitless power.
Wow.
Another friend had these intense dreams, first of collapsing, like dying, and then of rising up out of the earth.
Totalizing.
Transformation, renewal, like a seed has to die to become a plant, right? Or like the prodigal son coming to his senses.
Okay. Neville pointed out that phrase literally means recovering from a faint, like waking up to a new reality.
Exactly, a shift in consciousness.
And underpinning all this, Neville identifies what he sees as the real sin, the fundamental one.
Which isn't breaking some rule, but...
No. The lack of belief in I am he, failing to recognize your own divine creative power.
Right. Not realizing you are the operant power. The core mistake is not believing you already are what you want to be, or already have what you want to have in imagination.
That's the key, isn't it? Assuming the state of the wish fulfilled.
That's everything. And he tells another personal story to illustrate this from his army days.
Oh, yeah. What happened?
He was just a private, wanted something, I think, leave or a discharge, and his colonel gave him a flat, final-sounding no. Absolutely not.
So, facing authority, just like in the song.
Exactly. No way to argue, no recourse in the outer world. So what did Neville do?
He went within, communed with himself.
Yep. Turned to his imagination. Vividly imagined the outcome he wanted, getting the approval, feeling the relief, seeing the paper signed in his mind's eye.
Yeah.
9 days later, 9 days. The colonel calls him in, reverses the decision, grants the request.
Just like that?
And the colonel apparently presented it as if he had reconsidered, as if it was his idea now, just like Lynn's mother.
Incredible. The power of that inner work, changing the external situation without any outward action towards the colonel.
That's the power Neville taught. And he also connected this whole process to something bigger, didn't he?
You mean the promise?
Yeah, this idea that through this faith and imagination, you're essentially redeemed from, well, the limitations and conflicts of this world. You enter a different state, a different age, psychologically first.
A shift from being controlled by circumstances to being the creator of them.
Exactly. It's about shifting your focus from the world of Caesar, the external, to the world of God, the internal creative power.
And bringing it back to little Lynn, what was his final thought on her story?
It was a gentle nudge, really. He basically said, look how easily even she forgot the principle a couple of times in just one day.
Huh. Good point.
So the encouragement to us, the listeners, is remember to turn to God, to your imagination, even more often than Lynn did. Make it a consistent practice.
Don't wait for the big crisis, maybe?
Right. Practice it daily, moment by moment if needed. Make that inner communion, that trust in your imaginal power, your default setting.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. What are the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive?
Well, first I'd say, your imagination isn't trivial. It's divine. It's the creative power God within you. That's fundamental.
Right. And second?
This technique, communing with yourself, going silent internally and really feeling your wish as already fulfilled, is incredibly powerful. It works.
Feeling is the secret, he always said.
Exactly. And third, you absolutely have to trust this inner work. Believe that your imaginal acts have creative power and will manifest. That trust is key.
So the message is, you listening right now, you have this power. You can shape your world.
Just like Lynn, just like Neville's mother, just like Neville himself in the army. It's an innate ability we all possess.
You just have to learn to use it consciously.
Precisely.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Think about something in your life right now. A challenge, a desire, big or small.
Yeah, bring something specific to mind.
And then ask yourself, how could I apply this? How could I go into that silent communion, feel the reality of what I want, and just say thank you for it internally?
Give it a try. Experiment with it. Don't just listen to us talk about it. Actually apply the principle.
See what happens when you trust your own wonderful human imagination.
It might just surprise you.